Alright, so the Ravens have been a red hot team this year. They clinched a first round bye, and Lamar Jackson is looking like the apparent MVP. The Ravens are red hot, to simply put it. And so now the questions pose, what's going to slow down or cool this team off in the playoffs? What do teams have to do? How will they stop Lamar Jackson? How will they stop the Ravens? Now this is where I come in. I did some research, I looked at the Ravens past season, and I think we're going to have some good intel in this video on how to stop the Ravens and how to slow Lamar Jackson down. So if you're new here, feel free to subscribe to the channel, turn on post notifications, I post sports content almost daily. I'm a little bit too excited right now. Let's get into the video. So how do you stop the Ravens? The hottest team in the league. They went 14-2. Lamar Jackson almost looked unstoppable. He literally had a record-breaking MVP season. With all that said, as good as Lamar Jackson was, it doesn't hide the fact that he had some bad weeks. And a lot of those weeks came earlier in the season, and it kind of forced the Ravens to change their recipe. So first things first, we're going to look at the Ravens' new recipe for winning games. So flashback to week 3 of the NFL season, week 3 to week 6. The Ravens had a rough patch. They went 2-2 during this stretch, and the games they won were all really close. One was an overtime win, and the other one was a close game versus the Bengals. The worst team in the NFL this year held the Ravens to a close match. I know that was probably outshined by Lamar Jackson's spin move that game.
Look at him turn back and forth. Oh, he broke his ankles.
But it was actually a really competitive football game. So one thing about these games is honestly you could say the first 6 games of the Ravens NFL season is I feel like they really wanted to showcase Lamar Jackson's arm and prove to people, hey, he's a legit quarterback. You have to play straight up defense versus him. So in these early on games, a lot of them will be close. And one trend you're gonna notice is the Ravens were throwing the ball a lot. They had Lamar Jackson throwing the ball 30 times, 40 times a game. And this kind of turned out to be a recipe for disaster. It didn't result in a winning record. You'll say they lost to the Chiefs, the Browns, went to OT with the Steelers, and had a very close game versus the Bengals. And again, 3 of those teams are really, really bad. Now, one result of Lamar Jackson throwing so much was interceptions. He threw 3 picks versus the Steelers and 2 picks versus the Browns. Now, moving forward, one thing you'll notice past week 6 is the Ravens cut down on Lamar Jackson's passing. Some games he didn't even throw the ball 20 times. A lot of games, almost every game, he threw the ball less than 25 times. So one thing in the playoffs, if you can, some way, somehow, if teams can force Lamar Jackson to sit back and throw the ball, that will lead to some postseason success. So that's the first piece of this puzzle on how to stop Lamar Jackson. One, you must force him to throw the ball. I know some people might think this is an expired take, but as good or as impressive as he's been, Lamar Jackson still isn't Peyton Manning. He still isn't Tom Brady. He's still only a second-year quarterback, and this is his first full season starting. Force him to throw the ball, and things will get a lot easier. Now, step 2 on how to stop Lamar Jackson. So again, looking back, zoning in on this little, I guess, 3-week, 4-week spread of just bad, mediocre games from the Ravens, we're gonna look at the Cincinnati Bengals game. So one thing the Bengals did, which made this game so close and kind of forced Lamar Jackson or made him a little bit more uncomfortable and made him a little bit more patient in terms of scrambling and breaking the pocket, is they more or less ran a QB contain. They didn't go for sacks. They didn't try to apply QB pressure. They just tried to contain Lamar Jackson. They were A-okay with him sitting in the pocket. As long as he didn't escape the pocket, scramble for 20 yards, 30 yards, break off a big highlight play, the Bengals were okay with that. And to be honest, it almost worked. Looking back on this game, the Ravens only won this game by a touchdown, and I know all the good football was overshadowed by Lamar Jackson's spin move, but looking at this game, we can see that the Ravens, I guess QB contain, mush rush, mud rush, whatever you want to call it, it worked. It slowed Lamar Jackson down, it slowed that offense down. And I feel like it's one of those things that if a better team ran it, maybe a playoff team, it might have resulted in a win. So that's the next step to the puzzle. You must contain Lamar Jackson. Easier said than done. And I'm not saying that in the sense you're thinking. I'm just saying, hey, force him to sit in the pocket. Don't go for sacks. It's a crazy meta, but don't go for sacks. Force him to pass. These kind of go together. That's why it's a puzzle. But again, force him to pass. Don't rush the QB. And I think we're going to see trouble for the Ravens when it comes to passing the ball. Now, the next step in stopping Lamar Jackson is kind of interesting because it really isn't about stopping him. It's about stopping his teammate, Mark Ingram. So one thing about the Ravens, since they stopped passing the ball so much, that means they're running the ball a lot more. And they had the #1 rushing attack in the league for a reason, and they were pretty good at it. They were very dominant when it came to running the ball. But one thing we've seen in their losses is when you can slow Mark Ingram down, it puts twice as much pressure on Lamar Jackson. That means he has to make all the plays. He has to do all the rushing, all the running, all the throwing. And football's a brutal sport. It's a part of the game, but it's gonna leave him open to hits. If he's forced to make all the plays, it's gonna wear him out. Lamar Jackson isn't a big guy, and he's not really that good at avoiding contact yet, in my opinion. And if you look back at the Ravens season, teams that bottle up Mark Ingram really gave the Ravens a hard time. You can fast forward to week 13 versus the 49ers. Now, this was a wet, rainy game. It only made sense to run the ball, which the Ravens did too. But the Niners pretty much bottled up Mark Jackson, and he didn't have a good game, and this forced Lamar Jackson to make more plays, and we even saw him have a crucial late fumble in this game. Now, jet offenses. If these teams can slow down Lamar Jackson, force a passing turnover, force a rushing turnover, I guarantee you it's gonna be a recipe for disaster. And again, we saw this in some losses too versus the Browns. Mark Ingram didn't have a big game, didn't crack 100 yards, didn't get any touchdown. Versus the Chiefs, Mark Ingram started out slow, ended up picking up 3 touchdowns and having 100 yards, but the fact that the Chiefs could bottle him up for a couple drives and have an offense that can capitalize on a missed drive or a 3-and-out by the Ravens, it led to the Chiefs winning that game. And that's kind of what you have to do for great players and versus good teams. You have to take your wins. You might not stop them the entire game, you might not throw off Lamar Jackson the entire game, but if you can get an extra bad drive or 2 out of them, it can change the outcome of a game. And that's what you're gonna see good teams do in the playoffs. They're gonna capitalize on every single mistake made. And alright guys, there you have it. Those are the 3 keys, 3 pieces to stopping Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. You must do a mush rush, you must force him to pass, and you must force him to make all the plays in the running game by stopping Mark Ingram. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, thumbs up this video. And hey, if I missed something, if you think I'm wrong, comment down below. If you have a playoff prediction, if you're feeling froggy, let me get your playoff prediction down below in the comments. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy. Peace.